Painkiller Ghosts, Chapter 31, Insomniac Visions, Part 1. Now it's the next day, and this is how it is. Stan, whose left nostril is not bleeding right now, just wait, is at the mall getting a new cell phone. He wants one with a good camera. He finds one, buys it, and now he has a new phone with a better camera. He walks back to his car and sits behind the wheel with the engine running and looks at his new phone and tests the camera on a young mother who walks by pushing a stroller into the mall. Click, view, smile. It's been a while since he's had sex. It was with Aaron the last time. He wishes he still had that phone, the old phone. He looks down at the burn on his hand and his left nostril begins to bleed. No matter what she did, Stan liked her. He'd like to see her again, Oliver. He sees another woman walking towards the entrance. Click, view, smile, repeat. This is later, now, and this is how it is. Chastity has left an axe next to the front door, the hatchet near the back door in the kitchen, and the baseball bat next to the sofa she sleeps on. She's installed locks on the windows, she's changed the old locks on the door, and installed a deadbolt on the back door where there wasn't one beforehand. She closed and locked the windows on the first floor, she closed the blinds in all the windows, and then switched on the television and went numb watching the news talk about unemployment. She switches the channel with the remote. She's resting her foot on the baseball bat that's rolling on the floor near the sofa. She's still underdressed for the season, though she does have socks on. She likes the feel of the baseball bat under her socked foot. She likes the idea of swinging it if she has to, or wants to. She falls asleep for a little while. She's dreaming about running around as a child in socked feet and dragging a plastic yellow baseball bat behind her. In her dream, she bends down to pick up some clover. There are a dozen four-leaf clovers right at her feet. She drops the plastic baseball bat, which is now pink in her dream suddenly, and she drops to her knees and starts picking four-leaf clovers, one, then two, and then another. Then she hears the sound that ends all of her dreams these days, the sound of a foster father calling her name. She leaves the baseball bat there and runs to show her foster father the four-leaf clovers that she's found, and she runs to the front yard where he is, and she runs up to him, and when she gets there, she opens her hand, but she no longer has clovers. There are now 2 pennies in one hand and 1 penny in the other hand. She wakes up. Her foot is still resting on the baseball bat. She looks into her left hand. She's holding 2 pennies. She opens her right hand. There's nothing in it. This is the next morning, 7 a.m., and this is how it is. Time's awake and in the kitchen. He's been up since 5:15 a.m. He's in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, doing nothing. He snaps out of his blankness and decides to make himself a cup of tea. He has the radio on. It is tuned to NPR. Nothing special in the weather. It's cold and there are no flowers alive, but there is a special report about lice in the school system around him. He stands there, watching his tea steep, and his head begins to itch. He scratches as he listens to the news story. The more the 2 correspondents, who Time hears daily on their morning as he's alone in the kitchen, they talk about lice in the elementary school, and the more his head itch, then his sideburns, then his whole beard. It is now 7:15 a.m. He opens the drawer to the left of the sink that holds the large knives, and he brings out a big black pair of scissors. He listens to the voices on the radio, and with one hand he holds the meat scissors, and the other hand he is constantly scratching his hair. Down the hall, in the half bath, he turns on the light and stares at himself in the mirror. He likes his beard. He wishes he could have a longer one. He can't believe he spent so many years without one. He stares at his eyes. There's no red, at least not much. He turns on the 2 faucets in the sink and waits for the water to warm up, scratching his beard and listening to the voices on the radio in the other room. But now it's on to another story on the radio. He stops listening. He puts his finger into the water. It's warm. He holds his hands in a cup under the water, bends over fully dressed, and douses his hair with water. He doesn't have long hair, but it is shaggy. He begins to run his left hand through the hair and grabs some of the longer bangs and the longer side that hangs down over his ears. He begins to snip and cut away. First on the right side, then on the left side, then on the top, and then the back, all with just the mirror on the wall in the bathroom. Hair falls down into the sink. After a while he scoops it up and tries to get into the trash, and then he washes the other strands down the drain. He keeps cutting and cutting and snipping, and he misses some here and cuts a little too short there, but he basically gets it all. The radio is on to a sports segment. He couldn't care less. Time goes upstairs. In the other bathroom, he turns on the shower and takes off his sweatshirt, and then one t-shirt, and then the other. He stares at his shoes. He stares at his shoes that have been there on his feet ever since Mama lay there dead in her fast car. Dead fast in her car as Mama lay dying. Instead of taking them off and taking a full shower, he bends his naked torso into the shower stall and shampoos his newly cut hair and then rinses it, the whole time water is running down his back and getting his pants and the floor wet. He turns off the shower and dries off and gets dressed and doesn't look back into the mirror again. Now it's now, just a little later, and this is how it is. Time and his newly cut hair are sitting on the front stoop in the cold with shoes but no socks, and he's dying for a cigarette. He hears a trash truck coming up the street. It's driving for a minute, and then Time hears a door slam, and then it's driving again, and then a slam. Time's still sitting on the stoop, watching absently as the truck gets closer. He sees the writing on the side of the truck, Conroy and Son, Refuse Service. He scratches his newly cut hair, thinks about lice. He keeps scratching. The truck pulls up in front of his house, and Time realizes that he hasn't pulled the trash bin from the side yard, so he gets up and drags the big barrel around the back towards the truck. Time is a little out of breath. He looks at the man from Conroy and Son and says, "This is a two-man job for sure." The man looks back at Time and says, "Yeah, that's the truth." Time says, "You need someone just to drive this thing. You can't be doing by yourself." There's a pause. The Conroy's son continues, "Then you drive it for me. I'm not looking for a job. I didn't offer to pay you. Where's your dad?" The trash man shakes his head no and says, "Sorry to read about your mother too." They shake hands. "I'm Lincoln." Link. Time. Get in the driver's side. Okay. Time walks around to the driver's side door and opens it, and gets behind the idling engine, adjusts the left exterior mirror, and slowly pulls the truck down the street as Lincoln holds onto the back, shouting, "Take a left here and slow down the third house, then 3 more houses down, then the next right." Time turns off the radio in the cab, so much as to hear Lincoln better, as just to have nothing he listened to except the truck's engine and Link shouting out directions. He stopped after 3 houses. He could feel the truck shift just a little bit as Link jumped off, then a little more, then just a little more when Link jumped back on. Then he drove past 3 more houses and slowed to a stop again. When Lincoln slapped the left side of the truck, Time drove off and took the next right and then stopped at the 3rd house. He keeps on driving for a while, maybe half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. He takes a left, and at the 3rd house in he stops and looks to his side as Lincoln jumped off the truck, and he saw that he was right there in front of her house, in front of Chastity's house. Time looks at the front door of the house, Chastity's house, and it's shut. He looks at the ground level windows to the left of the door, and the ones to the right, they're all shut. Blinds have been shut in all the windows on the ground floor. He looks up to the next floor. The same for the 2 of them, he sees. 2 are shut off from the outside world tight. But the last window has the blinds up and some fresh air is going in through a small gap. The truck idles. Time gazes up at the window, and then he sees her, Chastity. She's been sitting there in the lower part of the window the whole time, looking out at Time, as he sat there staring at the other windows. He looks at her. They exchange glances for a second, and then Lincoln slaps the back of the truck, and Time eases his foot off the brake and pulls the truck up around 3 other houses and then stops. And Lincoln jumps off the back of the truck. Time watches through the side mirror back at Chastity's house, but sees nothing. And then Lincoln slaps the side of the truck, and it's time for Time to go up to the next corner and hang a right. Lincoln tells Time, when it gets dark, it's quitting time. Whatever, Time says through his beard. I don't have any plans. He smiles. Lincoln slaps the back of the truck and they start rolling down the street.